stakeholders are the regulators, policymakers, and law enforcement agencies. Other co-fighters in this program include the Food and Drug Department, Ministry of Health, NAPRIT, NDLEA, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, FCCPC, Immigration Service, Nigerian Customs, journalists, and others. This program, you will agree with me that the fight against SF is a worthy cause, because if we do not continue to take away more of these products, lives will be taken away. So that's why we are here to review the national strategic document that will help us to fight in a strategic way and win the war. Please permit me to call the DJ.
Welcome you to this very important gathering to explore how to combat the import or importation, distribution, and sale of substandard falsified medicines called SFs. This engagement with relevant regulators, policymakers, and law enforcement agencies, stakeholders in Nigeria serves as a means of thinking together and putting in place a position that will represent or guide our collective efforts and strategies to prevent, detect, and respond to SF medicines. The goal here is to ensure that medical products in circulation are of the right quality, they will be safe, and they will be efficacious. The relatively high prevalence of substandard falsified medicines in Africa is a major threat to public health. This is because regulation in the region is limited, because only few national regulatory agencies have attained maturity level 3. And what leads to maturity level 3 includes market control. That is one of the 9 models of maturity level 3. So if only about or less than 10% have attained that status, then you can see that in Africa we have a lot of work to do. And this fact allows for poorly regulated manufacturers to supply their products in Africa, where technologies to detect SF and track and trace are limited. We belong to the member states. It's a global association or group, and we have 55 countries in Africa. All those countries are member states globally, and they agreed almost many decades ago to ensure that products that are coming to their region are of quality. And WHO created a scheme called Certificate of Pharmaceutical Products, COPP. Essentially, what it means is that if we send a certificate of pharmaceutical product out to another country with a particular regulated product, we are assuring the receiving country that it will be of quality. That's not what is happening. Most of our medicines come from Southeast Asia, and they belong to the member states too. We have a scheme where before medicines that we have approved leave that part of the world, we do pre-shipment testing. And that pre-shipment testing is supposed to come with certificate of pharmaceutical product. Meaning, it's supposed to assure us that what we are getting is good. But that's not the case. Because through our scheme, we have been able to stop over 140 products that we approved from coming in. Meaning, you approve NAFDAC, yeah, but we will cheat on you. Because we don't really care about your citizens. We are going to put an end to that. Because we found out that more than 50% of what is called pharmaceutical certificate of pharmaceutical product that come into our country are fake. They fake them. But it takes two to tango. Part of the responsibility is our own people that go to China or India. But we're going to deal with it. And member states, I was at a meeting yesterday evening. We're going to fight for it. It's a member state issue. And Africa is a continent of 55 members. And we're going to fight for it. The menace of substandard falsified products threatens access to safe, efficacious, and affordable medicines, undermining health systems and the achievement of universal health coverage. Some countries are already copying what we are doing, this pre-shipment testing, before it leaves the port. That is one of the ways in which we fight SFs. It is a multifaceted issue globally. There's a book called Bottle of Lies. And the person that was behind the writing of that book is from Southeast Asia too. And in that book, they highlighted the fact that some manufacturers will manufacture for the so-called stringent regulatory countries. And the same line, they will use another line for Africa. We are going to put a stop to it. That is part of why we are very stringent now, more stringent than ever, in terms of our regulatory inspection. No cutting of corners. What you see is what you see. We have blacklisted many companies. We have sanctioned them that you will never imagine how much we sanction them. Because we want people to respect our own people. Trade is a mutual agreement. If that mutual agreement is harming one part of the two-way agreement or arrangement, we will stop it. That is one of the reasons why we started 5+5. So the products that have been being imported forever, which we have capacity to manufacture, we will no longer import them. And that is working now. When we do renewal, we find out whether those products are part of 5+5 scheme, and we remove them from being imported, because local manufacturing is access. Local manufacturing is assurance of quality. If a company is if it has a bad or is suspected to be compromising, in 2 hours we will be there. In 2 hours we will be there. Does that mean we're going to import everything? No. It is that we turn it around. 70% local, 30% import. That is one of the ways to fight substandard falsified medicines. NAFDAC has the mandate to regulate and control the manufacture, importation, exportation, distribution, advertisement, sale and use of our 7 regulated products: drugs, cosmetics, chemicals, detergents, medical devices, packaged water, and so on. This mandate puts a burden on the agency to lead the fight against SFs in Nigeria and support efforts that will see a reduction in the prevalence of substandard falsified medicines, both locally manufactured and imported. We fight this internationally and locally. A few months ago, we got a wind that a local manufacturer was compromising within 2 hours. We were there and we shut the company down. There was a lot of begging. I said, begging for what? To continue to kill people with your substandard falsified medicine or unwholesomeness in the area, in the manufacturing facility? Nope. So it is a multifaceted problem. NAFDAC currently is doing its best to fight the issue of substandard falsified medicines. The fight is based on 3 broad thematic areas: prevent, detect, and respond. Prevent, detect, and respond. Regulators and law enforcement agencies like yours play a vital role in ensuring the safe, quality and efficacious medicines reach the end users. That's why I respect all our sister agencies that are present. Without you, we cannot do it. It is a community effort, community of agencies in the country. Therefore, we need to foster complementary partnerships that will seek to identify lapses in the supply chain in order to curb the distribution of SFs. One of the ways in which we are tracking the supply chain is using what is called traceability. It is a technology-driven means of knowing whether a bad product is infiltrating the supply chain. It's called GS1 Track and Trace. NAFDAC is leading that effort in Africa, and we are second in the world. Why? Because we want to mitigate substandard falsified medicines. I enjoin you to sustain your support and collaboration with NAFDAC to ensure that only quality medicines are used in Nigeria. NAFDAC, as the lead regulatory agency in this fight, is seeking the support of all regulators, policymakers, and law enforcement agencies, practitioners, professionals, and well-meaning Nigerians in the import and distribution system of Nigeria to improve our chances of winning the war on substandard falsified medicines. Therefore, I would like to welcome you all to this important gathering. Please feel free to participate actively and contribute so that we can proffer solutions to the challenges identified to ensure the success of this major stakeholder engagement. Thank you very much. It's imported with custom duty. So what a manufacturer can buy for 1 naira last year, forex, no forex, naira high, they cannot. So that has slowed down the happy trajectory that we were seeing up to like middle of last year. And my plea is that we look at our own pharmaceutical industry as a life-saving industry, to create a special access to forex. It can be a tripartite arrangement where NAFDAC will assure government, because anybody can become manufacturers overnight, to get this special forex. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when the government was trying to capacitate local manufacturers in terms of their infrastructure, NAFDAC was brought in. We midwifed it, that these are bona fide companies, and then the rest is left for CBN and the manufacturers to figure out in terms of credit worthiness and whatnot. Mrs. Onunko, to answer your questions, we are doing very well in terms of the result of 5+5. And it's not only 5+5. We also have what is called NAFDAC ceiling. Under that ceiling, we had 9 products. Now we have 34 products under that ceiling that cannot be imported into the country, because our manufacturers have the capacity. NAFDAC is getting stronger to guide them to ensure that only quality, safe and efficacious medicines are being made in Nigeria. It was there before I joined NAFDAC, but there was a lot of compromise, big loopholes. We use this, or we operate via what is called Clean Report Inspection Analyst Scheme. NAFDAC had agents in China and in India. And those agents are supposed to be the one to handle the testing of the products coming in. So we don't have NAFDAC officers in India or China. However, we were not in control of which lab they are using. What is the capacity of the lab? So we generated policies or documentation in terms of what we expect to see in a typical laboratory. So 2019, I went with about 8 officers to India and to China. That travel changed everything. We dropped some CRI agents that were compromising. We went through each lab. We sent to them, these are the things we expected in your lab. So our staff scattered across India and then gathered in Shanghai to meet the CRIA agents. In that process, we also added, I think, 1 or 2 CRI agents to the list, because we removed 1 or 2 too. But like I said, trade is mutual. I read them the Riot Act, that it's good to trade, but it's not by force. You want to trade with us? Make sure you bring quality products. You don't, you will be the one to lose. And that was what changed things around. Because there were some labs that said they were testing our product before my time that didn't even have equipment. But they will say, yeah, they have tested. We were also rating the laboratories to see which ones we're going to continue with, which ones we're not going to continue with. But most of them are keeping to the terms of our agreement. They signed an agreement which we could tear anytime they violate our policies. That is the first part of the question. The second part is we are focusing on importation, what of local? I mentioned it during my talk that it is easier to control local. In fact, local probably gets more pressure from us than the importers or foreign manufacturers, because we can get there within 2 hours or overnight. If I get a report late in the evening, I will call the director of drug evaluation and research. You're going to be here by 10 o'clock in the morning with your staff. They will. And we have done that several times. Because it's not just the importers that have bad intent. Few of our manufacturers, also local manufacturers, also have bad intent. Greed, cutting corners. You know, after having lived in the US for decades, I know why there is more sanity there for pharmaceutical manufacturing. If your company is worth $200 million and you violate FDA rule, they will just fine you $210 million. That is bye-bye. Yes. So, if it doesn't hurt the pocket, if there is no deterrent, and that's why I'm happy that the regulators are here. If there is no deterrent, they will continue to do it. And we have done many sanctions rather, that are hurting pockets. Because you love a child, you love a child. If a child keeps misbehaving, let the child learn. So tough love. I love our manufacturers, I love local manufacturing and whatnot, but if you cross the threshold, you will be heavily sanctioned, closed. We have closed few companies permanently. We have shut down several companies until they correct whatever we found out that are not good. So I hope that answers the questions. Local manufacturing is access. Local manufacturing is access to quality medicines, safe, efficacious medicines. Thank you very much.
Can we have the update on the testing of paracetamol brand in the country? The update on the...
Bring it back. Somebody actually sent me something yesterday, one of our officers, that there is a increase in the publication of trash in the world. I will use the word trash. Unscientific, pedantic, shameful. That was what was published about paracetamol. At a point, I almost couldn't read through one paragraph without finding a grossly unscientific principles or assertions or whatever. As a regulator, we do survey. When we call it something survey, it's not questionnaire. We're actually going around the country collecting samples from formal and informal markets. Formal is pharmacies, hospital pharmacies, community. Informal is people selling medicines in the corner stores and whatnot, on the street. Just to see what is the prevalence. We do that annually. I looked at that document, I said, what? First of all, it's a disgrace to Nigeria. I'm sorry to say. It is a disgrace that a journal will want to publish that. I taught pharmaceutical manufacturing drug evaluation for about 27 years The rest is like administrative and so on. And I actually sent it to one of my ex-students that is now a pharmaceutical scientist. I couldn't send it to the ones that are not Nigerians or Africans. I sent it to one that is a Ghanaian. And he called me and said, Dr. A, what is this? What is this? I didn't know whether to cry for us or to be angry. It is between the two. But I'm a scientist. I will have to prove that that publication is wrong, despite the fact that almost every line in it is shameful, it's unscientific. So we went round to gather paracetamol from different sources. We had 13 types. And to test a product, it's not I don't know whether in that journal or publication they said they used 2 tablets. But 2 tablets? And then they put WHO logo at the back to deceive 215 million people. I said, no way. WHO will never be responsible for this. So it is a way of deceiving the masses. It is a way of somebody that maybe, I don't know, promotion or whatever, want to put something out. I call it trash. And we found out that there is nothing wrong with our paracetamol. It is the simplest of our medicines. BP standard is from Nigeria, doesn't change from if you go to Ghana. British Pharmacopoeia Compendium. They use what they're not supposed to use. But in any case, I hope I answer your questions. We don't have any problem with our paracetamol. In fact, the test that we did in the lab is one of the simplest of our tests, least complicated, because that's just straightforward. I hope I answered that question. Thank you very much. Telling them, I said, we cannot even make lactose. We have corn, we have whatever, potato, we have and they responded. It's not easy. Our local manufacturers, to me, they are patriots. They do all these things through thick and thin. So we have EMZO that has, I think the last time I went to Shagamu area, I think they have about 75% completion of a local, of the building or the setup, yes, for making lumefantrine, artemether, lumefantrine, sulfadoxine, and pyrimethamine, anti-malarials. Another consortium of about 4 or 5 companies, what I call FITSIN consortium, are also planning to manufacture antibiotics, antihypertensives, things like that. So our local manufacturers are responding. But if we think the review of finished products is hard, the review or assessment of active pharmaceutical ingredients, which we call API, is harder. It is raw science. So what we did was to start increasing the capacity of our local manufacturers. So in October last year, we had a meeting, a workshop at Marriott Ikeja. I think there were about 150, 140 participants. It is an international meeting. The best of the best were invited. About 5 or 6 were there physically, maybe equal number also virtually. From China, from Europe, from US, to start building the competence in terms of active pharmaceutical ingredients and non-active pharmaceutical ingredients, what we call excipients. It was a very successful meeting, and it is not just NAFDAC, because we also have to train ourselves, because we have not been reviewing active pharmaceutical ingredients in form of submission and whatnot and approval. So we had NAFDAC staff, regulatory officers, we had local manufacturers, we also had academia, because we were thinking 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. So we invited about 12 universities, professors and students to start building their capacity. Because what we lack in Africa the most is capacity. It's intellectual capacity, competence. Because you cannot give what you don't have. There is no abracadabra. So that meeting is just the beginning, that workshop. We are having another one this year.
Can we just rise again and take the national anthem so that we formally open it? I'm honored and privileged to welcome our
on production of alcoholic beverages in sachets and PET bottles that are less than 200 ml. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control stopped the registration of alcoholic beverages in sachet and small volume PET and glass bottles that are below 200 ml, based on the recommendation of a high-powered committee of the Federal Ministry of Health and NAFDAC on one hand, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission on the other hand, and the industry also represented by the Association of Food, Beverages and Tobacco Employers, AFBTE, the Distillers and Blenders Association of Nigeria, DBAN, in December 2018. So it is about 5 years ago when we had this high-powered meeting. As commitment to the decision reached, as commitment to this decision that was reached at the end of this high-powered meeting, producers of alcoholic beverages in sachet and small volume PET bottles less than 200 ml agreed to reduce the production by 50% with effect from 31st January 2020, while ensuring the product will be completely phased out in the country by 31st January 2024. On the part of the agency, NAFDAC committed to ensure that the validity of renewal licenses of already registered alcoholic beverages in the affected category do not exceed 31st January 2024. We did not give any permit that exceeds that date. The people who are mostly at risk are the negative effects of consumption of the banned pack sizes of alcoholic beverages are the children, primary school age children, secondary school age children, and commercial drivers and riders. The World Health Organization has established that children who drink alcohol are more likely to use drugs, get bad grades, suffer injury or death, engage in risky sexual activities, make bad decisions, and have health problems. WHO also stated that harmful consumption of alcohol is linked to more than 200 health conditions, including infectious diseases, tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS as an example, and non-communicable conditions like liver cirrhosis and different types of cancer. It is also associated with social problems such as alcohol addiction and gender-based violence. So the take-home from this meeting is all about protecting children, underage youth, from getting liver cirrhosis that could lead to cancer, that could lead to death. To curb the menace of alcohol abuse, World Health Organization recommended some actions and strategies to policymakers that have been shown to be effective and, of course, cost-effective. And these include regulating the marketing of alcoholic beverages to younger people and regulating the availability of alcohol to younger people. NAFDAC was established by Cap N1 laws of the Federation in 2004 to regulate and control the manufacture, importation, exportation, advertisements, distribution, sale, and use of food, drugs, alcohol inclusive, cosmetics, medical devices, bottled water, detergents, chemicals. All these are known as regulated products. Alcoholic drinks in sachet or PET bottles or glass bottles below 200 ml are pocket friendly. These are pocket friendly. One can be easily pocketed by primary school children, and they do that. Not all of them, few do that. They are pocket friendly and can easily be carried around by children without being noticed. It is easily affordable and comes handy for commercial bus drivers, keke riders, okada riders, who, after consuming them, constitute a menace to the society. The negative impact of harmful consumption of alcohol by this age group, which is occasioned by its being very economical, easily accessible, and miniature in nature, prompted NAFDAC to take the bold step of banning it in order to save our children from harm and to protect the health of the larger society. Therefore, the main reason for calling this press conference is to intimate you to the government policy of banning the importation, manufacture, distribution, sale, and use of alcoholic beverages in sachet, PET, and glass bottles below 200 ml. As at the 31st of January 2024, there should not be alcoholic beverages in these categories that is registered by NAFDAC. We have stopped the registration. I also want to inform you that the agency started enforcement actions of this policy on February 1, 2024. And this enforcement was done simultaneously at the same time in various cities across the country. Meanwhile, many products at the manufacturing facilities in various cities such as Jos, Enugu, Ibadan, Lagos, and Ota were evacuated, and others put on hold due to sheer volume and size that we could not evacuate, but all are waiting destruction. And the enforcement continues. We started February 1, which was last week, 2024, and it will continue until we make sure there are no sachet alcohol in circulation and in PET bottles or glass bottles less than 200 ml. The 5-year window given to manufacturers by NAFDAC to phase out all alcoholic drinks in this category elapsed on the 31st of January 2024. So there was a 5-year phase-out period because we considered that manufacturers would have invested in machinery, in staff that were dedicated for those lines. Therefore, a 5-year phase-out period was given. To this end, on the first day after this phase-out period, the agency commenced nationwide enforcement actions on the 1st of February 2024. The manufacturers and printers of labels and packaging materials were the initial targets. It will surprise you to know that during the enforcement actions last week, it was discovered that some manufacturers of these banned products were still in production of the products and still had stacks of both finished products and packaging materials in their possession. This situation is of course not acceptable, and the agency views this as flagrant disregard of regulatory measures put in place to safeguard public health, especially children. NAFDAC views this matter seriously, and we engage all statutory means, which may include prosecution, to deal with the issue. I want to use this medium to ask all holders of alcohol in sachet, PET, and glass bottles less than 200 ml, empty sachets, empty PET bottles, empty glass bottles, labels, and other packaging materials of these banned products to immediately report to the Investigation and Enforcement Directorate of NAFDAC for handover of sale for destruction, in order to prevent sterner measures that can include prosecution. NAFDAC is resolutely committed to the strict implementation of regulatory measures towards safeguarding the health of Nigerians, particularly the vulnerable youth, against the dangers of reckless consumption of alcohol with the attendant negative health consequences and social vices. Thank you very much. Sometimes they fake our numbers, sorry about that. And that is why we have a post-marketing surveillance directorate that from time to time do surveillance. Sometimes they do mystery shopping to see those that don't even have our numbers, or those that we know, we suspect either through intelligence that the products have been faked or the numbers. So we do through surveillance, and the community also has to help. If it is too good to be true, please take it that very likely it is not true. The average consumer on the street may not know which one is regulated, which one is NAFDAC number that is genuine or not genuine. But there are always some factor that may bring such out. The price may be too cheap compared to what you bought like last week or previously. Where you are buying it is another problem. The appearance of it based on history, packaging. If there is a suspicion, please let us know. A lot of our successes have been based on intelligence. People telling us, we think this one may be wrong, this one may be right or whatever, and we go after them. So we have post-marketing surveillance and enforcement that are responsible for monitoring or following up and sanctioning, as the case may be, for people that fake our numbers. There are exceptions though, but they fake our numbers. Because I don't want anybody to walk out and say, all NAFDAC numbers are fake. No, there are exceptions. Nonetheless, we need support and collaboration. Channels, my colleague from Channels said that why this 5-year window? It was a difficult thing for us in NAFDAC. But the manufacturers actually went to the ministry when we said we're going to ban 5 years ago. So all of us came together in the ministry, and they said that, well, they've invested so much and they need time to phase out, that many people will be unemployed, and how do we, it's a difficult decision. That was why the then Minister of Health said that, okay, we will have a phase-out period so that there will not be any excuse. And that is why we are very, very focused on the enforcement. But from your perspective, it is rational. From my perspective, it's rational. But when you look at this holistically, there are machines that have been built for this. There are people that are there running the lines. We said, okay, let's phase it out. And bear in mind, January 2020, there was a decision in which we didn't register the volume. They reduced the volume, they agreed with us. So it was kind of step-by-step means of making sure that at the end of the period, there will not be any excuse. Thank you. And then, which manufacturers? We have many manufacturers that make sachet alcohol and also in PET bottles less than 200 mils. These are just examples of what our investigation and enforcement. This is the director of investigation and enforcement. These are just examples of some of the companies that they went to and seized their products. These are examples of those products. But there are many, so it's not like we can list them. And we are still doing enforcement. We are business friendly. So it's not like we are putting anybody out of business. Many of these companies make products greater than 200 mils. And we cannot legislate, we cannot ban alcohol in general. It is responsible drinking of alcohol that manufacturers expect, or that we also expect to happen. But when it comes to children, you cannot put burden of responsibility on a child, especially when you have very fancy packaging material or volume. I've heard that some children think it will make them to be smart in school. It will make them to be smart, but slowly their liver will become compromised. By the age 20-something, they may have liver cirrhosis, liver damage that can lead to cancer or death. That is why it is all about underage children. Thank you.